What's up, YouTube? This is Martin coming to you once again with my view of the world. Today, I want to actually break down the video that Brandon Tatum did. Now, I'm not going to break down the whole video because his whole video is like 14 minutes long and I'm not going to sit through the whole thing. But I just want to break down some of it to show you how wrong Brandon Tatum was when he sat down and made this video. Now this is a black man who's sitting here saying that these five guys are guilty still. Now, this is a guy who so-called was a police officer at one point in time in his life. And I just want you to hear some of the things he's saying. Now, this video also, it got 2.4 thousand likes. And I'm not trying to be racist when I say this, but I guarantee you 80 to 90% of those likes came from white people. Because that's who Brandon Tatum tend to try to focus on getting acceptance from. That's where he get his money from. That's who he appeals to the most. And that's another reason why he made this video. Because it's appealing to his white base, which is sad. But let's just listen to the video, and I'm going to break it down as we go along. I'm going to tell you what I don't like and what I think he's wrong at. But let's get started.
Need as many people to hear what I'm about to say as possible. I wish I could be in front of 100,000 people at one time to finally say what needs to be said about the Central Park Five. Everybody wants to approach this situation with emotions and not logic, not common sense, not because they've done research, but because they want to get emotional and they want to be tribe-like. The Central Park Five, in my honest opinion, I do not believe that they were innocent. And let me say this for the record for every single person that want to be Mr. and Mrs. SJW.
Now, and he said in his honest opinion, and then he also brought up before that research. I don't believe he did research. I really don't. Because like he said, his opinion. This is his opinion.
Themselves. You listen. The argument that I hear the most is that, they were exonerated. Look, the DNA showed that they got off. So now the precedent has been set that if you are exonerated through the court of law, you consider that to be legitimate. Am I making your point? Well, then why are you mad at all the police officers that have gotten out for these shootings? Now the justice system don't work. When it's not in your favor, the justice system don't work.
Well, the thing about this is the justice system didn't work in the Central Park 5 case. And the reason why it didn't work, because these people actually went to jail for years before they was exonerated. And come to find out, the system was broke in that situation because they had the wrong person locked up, the wrong people locked up, and they didn't even have the evidence to lock them up. All the evidence they had was circumstantial evidence. They didn't have no physical evidence to lock those five guys up. So the system did fail them. So when he's talking about the system is corrupt. The system does fail a lot of people. And when it comes to those police officers, everybody think the system failed those victims of the police officers because video showed them being shot and they wasn't armed. So yeah, the system is still flawed. In both instances, the police officers got off scot-free and they actually committed a crime, and the guys who didn't commit a crime went to jail for years. So the system is flawed. The system is fucked up.
When it is in your favor, now all of a sudden you want to have faith and confidence in the justice system. Let me tell y'all, as a former police officer, as a person who has done multiple investigations, as a person who has been involved in...
And no one has confidence in the system. No one. I know no black people have confidence in the system. Trust me. If you had confidence in the system, those guys would have been locked up for all those years.
And DNA sampling and all kind of other stuff. Let me tell you why I honestly, fundamentally think that this is a skewed idea of what happened regarding that movie when they see us and all these other pundits who are talking about this movie. They say the DNA was inconclusive. Let me explain to you what inconclusive possibly means. And by and large, on a full spectrum of being inconclusive, and let me give you an example. So for those of you who may not understand what I'm saying about being inconclusive, it's just like in a ball game. The dude running, he fumbled the ball. There's no angle. The referee couldn't see the angle. So they say, well, since we can't see the specific angle, we are ruling it inconclusive. It doesn't mean that they did it or didn't do it. We can't determine, so we say it's conclusive. That's what this type of DNA sampling led to. And another thing is that how much DNA was actually preserved? This is the problem that most people are having. How much DNA was preserved? When they first arrested the kids, they had no idea that there was a woman bound, raped, and mutilated in a park. They had no idea that this had gone on. The police didn't even find that girl until hours after they had already arrested these kids and taken them into custody because they were responsible for other crimes, robbery, beating up other people in the park. The rape came later. They didn't put bags on their hands. In a police investigation, when you feel or you believe that there's DNA that needs to be preserved because a person assaulted somebody using their hands, they beat them, they stabbed them, they shot them, you put bags on their hands immediately to preserve DNA. So when you put them in the back of the car, when you take them to the substation, they can't rub it off, they can't wipe it off, they can't put hand sanitizer on, they can't diminish the properties of the DNA sampling. And think about this. They did not do that. So it's almost impossible for you to find DNA sample on somebody's hands.
Now, he's talking about DNA sampling. Now, for one thing, when it comes to DNA, and he talking about covering the suspect's hands. For one thing, if you arrest someone a couple hours or a few hours after the incident, 9 times out of 10, that person gonna have DNA on their body somewhere from that victim. If they beat that victim, their hands gonna be scarred up, which you cannot rub off scars. All right, for one thing, there is gonna be blood somewhere. From just from me being a layman, I know that if I hit someone or if I beat someone, I'm gonna have scars. I'm gonna have blood from that person on my body somewhere. Bottom line, it's very hard to get rid of all DNA. Very hard. So what he's talking about is kind of nonsense because those guys wasn't gonna put sanitize on their hand. They wasn't gonna go to a police station and wash their hands. So if they have DNA on their hands when they got arrested, they still gonna have DNA on their hands when they get arrested. Not only that, but they was not committing other crimes in that park that night. That's something he just made up. They wasn't committing crimes in that park. See, Brandon Tatum is sliding things towards them being guilty. And that's his problem. He's not being objective in this whole situation. He's going in with this closed mind that these guys actually did what they did because of Trump. It's all about Trump when you break it down. That's why Brandon Tatum is saying what he's saying, because it's all about Trump. But let's continue.
More than 24 hours later. Now let's talk about the girl. They didn't find her until hours after this. The kids had already confessed. They didn't find her until hours after the kids confessed. Now, how much DNA do you think was preserved on her body? She was bound and laying in the ground, covered in mud for hours, unconscious. And for anybody who know anything about police behaviors, know anything about an investigation, is that a person's medical help comes before an investigation. So if a person is dying and clinging for their lives, the police have secondary obligation to that person. First is the medical staff. And what the medical staff does is the medical staff takes them. She's covered in mud. They have to wipe her off so they can make sure that she don't have any broken bones or damage or stab wounds. They got to clean her off. Then they're going to start to resuscitate her, to put, a tube down her throat, to check her vitals, to take her to CT scan. There's going to be 1,000 different things that they do before the police even have access to investigate her body as a crime scene. So you're telling me that there was evidence that was lasting and preserved on a young woman's body who had been wiped off and dealt with by the medical staff first.
Now, if she had been raped, and we all know this, like I said, I'm not a professional. I'm not a police officer, but I have watched a lot of television. So I know one of the main things they do to a rape victim is do a rape kit. Always do a rape kit. No matter what happens, no matter what the situation is, they're always going to preserve that through a rape kit. So if you notice, he never mentioned a rape kit. Now, this guy is supposed to be a police officer. So he knows that if a person been raped or sexual abused, they always going to do a rape kit. Always. Always. So there you go again. He leaving out very important details that he's failing to mention, which is a rape kit. And he knows that most medical professionals, when a person been assaulted like that, they know to preserve DNA. They know to preserve certain things when it comes to rape. They know that. So he's not mentioning none of that. He's just being naive. He's just being stupid.
First, after being in the park hours later, you're not going to find solid DNA. And the DNA that they did find, and from what I read, is that they didn't find necessarily DNA on her. They found DNA on a sock that was left behind at the scene, which the person ejaculated into the sock and left it behind on the scene.
Now, he just said something very important there. They didn't find no DNA on her. Now, whose DNA would it be? Whose DNA would it be on her? It would be one of those 5 guys that so-called raped her. There was no DNA on her. Now, he just proved a point. There is no DNA found on her. Think about that.
They found that DNA, and the person confessed to it, so they was able to capture that person's DNA. Other elements of DNA was inconclusive. Now, here's another element that nobody's talking about. And it's funny because I don't know why my YouTube is not working well. But this is what people are not talking about. Before any of this happened, before the young lady was found, before they decided to do DNA, they had already had these kids in custody, and they started snitching. They were sitting in the back seat snitching. And one or two of them had brought up the rape and potential murder of this girl, and the police department had no idea that this was even going on. They had no idea. And so to hear these kids uttering these things, and they're like, what is this kid talking about?
This part right here, he's straight up lying. He just straight up lying. Straight up lying. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. Brandon Tatum is just making this up. When he goes back and talking about, at the first part of his video, when he was talking about research, he didn't research.
He didn't rape somebody, or they didn't kill the girl. We don't know what they're talking about. All we know is that people that have been beaten up and robbed in this park, and you guys are going down for it because you're in the area. We investigated you. You got other witnesses that were there who pointed the finger at these 5. People fail to tell you that there was multiple people there, and the reason why they only had 5 was because people had identified, other witnesses had identified these 5 kids as being primary suspects. And I'm going to tell you this, the police officers whom people believe coerced them was going to release them. Because at this time, they hadn't found the girl, they haven't found all this evidence. They were going to release them and have their parents pick them up in family court because they were minors. That's the way you do. You sit on the family court. Oh, they did a robbery, they did a couple things, beat up people, family court. But the detective said there's more to it. We got multiple things going on. We got riots going on. We got all kind of stuff going on. And And so we need to hold these kids and investigate it, like a normal investigation, which a good investigator would do. But when they got in there, and people say, oh, they forced them to confess. So you know what? I watched the confessions. I went and looked at the confession, especially from the kid that snitched on everybody. And I'm telling you, with my experience as a police officer doing investigations and been through many investigations, is that there's no way in the world that they could brainwash a kid within 24 hours and he'd be able to articulate a script he articulate a scenario that one he never saw before, he was never involved in, and then they asked him non-leading questions, and he's able to come up with a scenario that's supposed to be brainwashed in his mind with no script. That is absolute.
Now, he failed to realize another thing also. Before they cut that camera on and took his confession, they already had talked to this kid off camera. They had manipulated this kid off of camera before they brought him on camera, which was an old trick the New York City police department did back in the day. They didn't just bring you in, set you down in front of a camera and tell you to confess. No, what they do is, before the camera start rolling, they prepped you. They influence you to change your stories to what they want to hear. Then once you get the story to the point where they like it, they put you in front of the camera, and then they let you talk. So the whole thing was a rehearse. They frightened this kid first before they put him in front of a camera. They made him rehearse what he was going to say before they put him in front of the camera. See, Brandon, he don't understand what's really going on around here. Well, he understands. He's just overlooking the fact that the New York City Police Department was so corrupt back in the 80s to the point where they had a lot of people who made confessions to them off camera. Then they put them in front of the camera to more or less justify the person confessing, not knowing that the person had been pretty much coerced into confessing before the camera started rolling.
Absolutely impossible to do, especially for a young kid that's supposed to be scared for his life. They want to depict that these kids are scared for their lives. Y'all don't forget, they were guilty of robbing and beating other people. They found that the rape was inconclusive, which was a part of their charge. That's why they threw it all away. Because the part of their charge, which the DNA exonerated them, quote unquote. But they still was guilty and they had admitted to and was charged for beating people, robbing people, and doing all kind of other stuff in the park. These weren't little kids running around just playing in the park in the middle of the night at 10 o'clock at night. These were thugs. These little kids were thugs at the time. They could have grown up and changed their life now and found Jesus. But at the time, these were little thugs running around robbing and mutilating people. And let us not forget this as well. They all admitted to being involved in the rape. They admitted to holding their arms down. They admitted to, one was talking about he was rubbing her legs. Oh, I didn't rape her, but I was rubbing her legs. And this dude was playing with her breasts. But me and him, the only ones didn't rape her. They raped her. And then they asked him, well, what happened? Well, I didn't want to get involved, but being around these two guys, you got to get involved. You got to get involved. So he said, that's why I even got involved. But I didn't want to rape her. Then they would the kid was telling how she got punched in the face several times. And he was articulating that she slapped the guy back. And then he punched her 5 or 6 times. And they was punching her so much that he couldn't even look at her. He didn't want to watch them punch her that many times because she was just a girl. And the reason he didn't jump in.
Now, with all that said, now if that one of those guys was beating her that severely, there was DNA everywhere. If he was beating her that severely, that he had DNA, he had her blood on his hands. He had his skin from punching her on her body in the whole 9. See, this is the part where it doesn't make sense, and Brandon should know it doesn't make sense because DNA is very hard to be removed. If he punched her like that, there was blood everywhere. But they didn't find no DNA on the lady. They didn't find no DNA, her DNA on them. So how much sense does that make? With him saying what he's saying, it doesn't make sense because there was no DNA of those guys on the lady, and the lady did not pass DNA onto them. So it doesn't make sense what he's saying. All what Brandon's saying is a whole bunch of baloney. It's garbage. What he's saying, it's slap garbage.
Was because she was a girl. He didn't want to participate in beating her up. But on that same video, he admitted to beating up another guy, kicking him in the ribs. Like, y'all gotta watch the footage. These people are lying to you. This is propaganda 101. And I just had to get this out my chest because I've been bawling on the inside talking to people about this thing, man. And it's just, it's mind-boggling that people are still confused and living in la-la land over this stuff. And again, with the conclusive stuff, with the conclusive, inconclusive stuff, they're claiming that just because these kids were exonerated, that's somehow concrete factual truth that cannot be disputed. But the same people that's saying they were innocent, the police officer in Michael Brown case, let me give you an example. I'm gonna give y'all two scenario examples. Michael Brown was found guilty of attacking the police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. He was found guilty by the Department of Justice under Barack Obama and Eric Holder. He was found guilty.
How can he be found guilty when he was dead already? See, this is how stupid this guy is. He didn't go to trial for one reason, because he was dead. So how can you was he tried by his peers? No, he wasn't. So what is Brandon talking about Michael Brown for? Michael Brown was dead and buried. So he was found guilty? Was he tried? I don't think he was tried, was he? But he was found guilty. Let's listen to how that sounds. He was found guilty. That sounds stupid, right? A dead man being on trial, being found guilty. I don't think that was a trial. I think the feds came in and they investigated the Ferguson Police Department, but they didn't say that Michael Brown was guilty of a crime because he was dead and they couldn't talk to him. So they don't know what happened from his point of view. You don't put a dead man on trial.
Guilty. And the officer was exonerated by the Department of Justice, not local police department, the Department of Justice through a federal investigation. They still paid out Michael Brown's family millions of dollars. Now you tell me, you help me understand how this officer Brown, not Brown, I forget his name now. The officer was exonerated on a local level and through the federal level, justified in shooting Michael Brown, and they still, the city still paid his family out. For any of you guys, Darren Wilson, that's his name. For any of you guys who don't understand politics and payouts, is that you don't have to be innocent to get a payout. If the city decides they want to save face either not by not going to trial or they want to be politically motivated, they're going to pay people out. People get paid out all the time by police departments, even though the officers are deemed to be innocent. Some of y'all too dumb to even look this stuff up. Just because they...
Now, he calling people dumb, but no, most cities pay out because when it comes to the justice system and going to court in a criminal case, it's much different than going to a civil suit. The burden of proof is much different. And that's why a lot of cities pay out, because the burden of proof is much different under a civil suit. Most people under a civil suit, like with the police department gonna lose. Every time, they're gonna lose. And that's why they pay out. It's not that the police officer is innocent and the city is gonna pay it out regardless. No, they pay it out because they know they're gonna lose a civil suit because the burden of proof is not the same as in a criminal case. That's why. Look at OJ. OJ is a prime example. OJ was found what? Not guilty in the murder trial. But in the civil case, what happened? They found him guilty. So he ended up having to pay the Goldman family and the Brown family all that money. And that's the same thing goes with the police departments. They know that the burden of proof is different in a civil suit. And they know 90% of the time they're going to lose because of that. So they pay it out. It's not that the officer was innocent. No. He still fucked up.
Paid these kids $40-some million with Bill de Blasio, who is the most liberal lunatic on planet Earth. He paid them out for political purposes. He wanted to gain brownie points in the black community. So what did he do? These guys are innocent. I'm going to pay them $41 million. It don't mean that they were innocent. The victim in this case said there was multiple people. She knew that there were multiple people who did this to her. That she wanted the case reopened because she knew it wasn't just one person that raped her. And some of y'all brains are too slow to catch on to this. What up?
I think his brain is too slow to catch on to this because, for one thing, he failed to mention one thing in this whole situation. The guy who actually did the rape. The guy who confessed to the rape. The guy whose semen they found at the scene. Whose DNA was on the lady or at the scene. He never talks about that. So, if you're going to talk about this case, if you're going to talk about them being guilty, why not talk about the semen that was found? Why not talk about the DNA of the person who actually did it, who actually confessed, and they had evidence to back it up. They had physical evidence to back it up. He never talks about that. Never talks about that. And if you look at the video itself, he don't even never look at the camera because he know he's lying. He's making all this up. But let's go ahead and finish this video up, and I'll continue at the end.
Oh, the doctor said that her injuries were consistent with multiple people injuring her. She had multiple different handprints on her body, her legs. Like it was an indication that more than one person did this to her. You know, and you know, it's just crazy to me, man. Y'all know Netflix is full of crap anyway.
Now, listen to the last part, which I think it was his girlfriend or somebody in the background who was saying that the doctor said this, the doctor said that. Well, my thing about that is, if there was so many hands on this lady, why didn't they have DNA? Why happened to all that DNA? Like I said, it's very hard to get DNA off you. I mean, as in to remove DNA to the point where they won't find DNA. It's very hard. You got hair, you got all kind of hair, you got all kind of liquids like sweat. You got all kind of things that DNA come off of. Clothing, everything. So if they had all these hands on her, what happened to the DNA? There was no DNA. That's the most important part of all. There was no physical evidence that those 5 guys attacked that lady. None whatsoever. But listen to Brandon Tatum, you'll think that they had all kind of evidence. All kind of physical evidence. And they didn't. Only thing they had was a confession that was coerced. That's it. That's all they had. That's their whole case.